Hello. Look at that.
How's it going?
It's going. Patrick, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Apparently we're out of focus a little bit, huh?
I mean, let's see. I can understand that because I'm on today. It's like, let's make that a little blurry.
I try to make it a little more ugly. You know? Can't make these faces any more pretty. All right. So speaking of not pretty things,
yes.
College football here.
There's a lot to talk about there.
Opening weekend, right? Like a couple big games. That's a nice part about I don't know what it is now, maybe conference consolidation, where we're starting to see some really good games in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, there was a couple big ones.
Not a bunch of walk in the park or cupcake games. So we had. It's
not Alabama versus Monroe Southern.
Alabama. So you bring Bert Kreischer to a Seminoles game, and next thing you know, the Alabama fans walking out early.
Yeah, that was something to see. That's the first. I think there was 23 years in a row they had won their opener, and that wasn't close. I mean, I watched that game, and they got dominated, both sides of the ball, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess start the I don't know if that's even politically correct anymore. The
warrior chant.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that gets obnoxious. I remember the Braves in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
it was like every time you turn it on TV, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to listen to this for another 3 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got Ohio State, Texas. Take the under on that one. 21 total points.
Yeah, and the under in the Clemson LSU game. That was supposed to be, I think the over was 54.5, which I maybe know somebody that took that.
You might know someone.
Yeah, they were quite disappointed.
He might be the same guy that looks in the mirror at you in the morning.
Right, it could be similar to that guy. I think it was 10-3 at halftime. I was like, yeah, this is probably
that's tricky, right? I mean, college football, it's kind of like the NFL too, right? Like the offenses are typically far more advanced in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season compared to the defense.
Yep.
Right. You got all the time to put wrinkles in. Nothing's on tape yet.
Yeah,
I'd take the over a lot of times too.
Yeah,
with why I can't play and partake in educated guesses on college teams anymore because it got a little wild. But I think the other big one, UNC.
Oh wow, man,
they got Hulu apparently is tracking their season, and Belichick probably not too happy.
Did you see? I don't know if this was real or if this was just somebody making a joke, but it said something about Hulu following the season, and it had TCU like post on that or respond to that post. It just said, "Awesome! Like, when's the first episode?"
I did see that one. Funny. I think I also saw something about like UNC hadn't had that type of loss on an opening game since Bill Belichick's girlfriend was in junior high, which is only 11 years ago.
Oh man, that one is it's not wrong.
It's they're on point. Like, I mean, how old she is. So, UNC, like, it's got to be tough. Like, you figure you go, it's hard to see these guys that go from like the NFL backwards. Like,
it doesn't seem to work out very often,
especially now when you have NIL money, like you have all this other stuff flowing in.
Yeah.
Speak like, the Miami game, right? Like, you're talking about a quarterback that caught some flack because someone stole his Lamborghini Urus. Like,
right.
Which, I mean, old school Miami, that probably happened too, but
sure.
Probably a little bit different.
Just not to this extent. I think it does. The NIL, that's a whole different story. I thought when the NIL was first being talked about, I thought it was, if they sold this player's jersey, if, that person was their like could or whatever was in a video game, that they'd get a certain percent. What it turned out to be was just have the boosters give a bunch of money and you can give it to anybody at any amount. It's crazy. It's like, all right, there's gonna be people that don't try and get promoted because they're making too much money in their job now.
Well, you think about it, like you look at how tough it is to make an NFL roster. You have all of these guys. You have college rosters that are 100+ deep a lot of times, and then you're going to go to a 53-man NFL roster with a practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
There's already established players in the NFL. Like,
and they're all superstars.
And why not hang out and make an extra $300,000 and go to class every couple days and have free meals and
some of them are making a lot more than that.
The Colorado, anyone that's on the Coach Prime down line there probably pays out well.
Sure,
it's
because you got boosters giving money. I mean, that the Portnoy, didn't he give like $10 million to Michigan and said, I want this quarterback?
Yeah, go get yourself a quarterback.
But you're just buying college football teams now. That's wild to me.
And that we look at these guys transferring. You got guys that played at Georgia 2 years ago, and now they're in Miami. Like it's a goofy thing. And then we also have seen, this is what we're going to talk about here on the topic, like conference consolidation.
Oh yeah.
So now you have the Big Ten's got like 25 teams in it,
Right.
and they have games that start at 10 p.m. Central now. Out on the West Coast, and you have imagine like you're out on the West Coast, you got to play Rutgers on the East Coast.
Yeah, the logistics of that.
Lots of goofy things, but that's NIL has kind of changed that as well, because now you just have these power conferences that have huge donors that can buy players and buy facilities and do all of this.
Yep.
And they're just kind of, I don't know, line in the sand there. Like, do we end up in a spot where we just end up with 3 or 4 conferences and then maybe a whole different division? Like, if you're not in these ones, you're in the FCS and not the Bowl Series. I don't know.
I absolutely think that's a possibility, simply because, I mean, if you look at them, the Big Ten obviously started 10 teams. One would think, 100 years ago, you had, and it didn't really make any sense with the UCLA, the Washington, the USC, Oregon. Like, if you think about basketball season, it's a Tuesday night, and I'm going from Oregon to Rutgers or Oregon to even West Lafayette, and it's like, all right, you're taking a 6-hour flight to play a 1.5-hour game, 6 hours back. It's like,
well, that's for a revenue sport. Like, imagine, how about like badminton?
Oh my God, right? Yeah, it's like we got an away game for whatever, and it's like, I don't know if that's quite cost effective.
Well, that's kind of like Notre Dame. Like, we're going to talk about the revenue and with a parallel to debt consolidation here, but Notre Dame historically remains an independent because they had that crazy TV contract, but then their other non-revenue sports and some revenue sports end up in the ACC a little bit. Like, it's a pretty big mix-up.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking before we hopped on about the topic of this. We had to look at conference consolidation. It's very similar to your budget and debt consolidation, right?
Yeah.
These conferences, why are they doing this? Well, they want to maximize revenue, and they don't want to have to revenue share with teams that maybe aren't drawing what some of these other teams are drawing, right? So how do we make the biggest pool of revenue or the biggest pool of income, and then share that across all of the big participants, and you don't have a team that might be dragging that TV contract down or dragging whatever other contracts exist now that we don't even know about down.
Right. Because when these teams are coming, let's say just to the Big Ten, you didn't see them adding teams that didn't have a massive crowd base or a history of winning and support from big donors. I think USC probably has quite a few dollars in the pockets of the alumni that find.
Oh, no doubt. And then like, you figure you have a huge alumni base that probably it could only really, from a college football fandom standpoint, spread east. So now you're picking up all of those people that live across the country. Mm-hmm. Now they're driving clicks, they're driving revenue. And so the Big Ten is cashing checks at that point. Same the SEC, right? Like, we look at the SEC, you have to look at like, Alabama and these, outside of Florida State romping them, but these historical powerhouses, they're sharing revenue with. Kentucky, maybe in basketball, is going to do great, but not in football, maybe not so much. Vanderbilt, how do we do this? Well, we need to continue to maximize the top line, right? And we talk about that from a debt consolidation strategy too. So these conferences are looking at it like, who's the bad debt in who are we sharing with that might not be the person we should be sharing with, because they don't contribute, they just take away. Credit cards, big one. And then how do we figure out to get that to snowball and to explode and then minimize the expense? Well, we need to figure out what that bad debt could be, right? And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when you were on, is like, just making that small incremental change could then make the make cash flow free up to where you can invest it.
Yes.
I think that's what people sometimes they don't follow or understand is, okay, so we went to the Savannah Bananas game, and that thing now is costing me an extra $85 a month in interest that I'm never going to get ahead of. Well, it's costing me. What if that 85? Great if it's just neutral, it's not doing anything. But what if that 85 is realizing a return now?
Right.
And then all of a sudden now you have interest compounding forward. Well, everyone gets afraid of this thing, debt consolidation, right? Like, I don't want to lose my 3% interest rate on my mortgage. Well, I mean, do you want to lose your 3%?
Sure, of course not. If I don't have to, but it depends on what the flip side is. If I have $30,000 in credit card debt and I'm paying 30%, and I can get rid of that and consolidate it at 6.5% or 6% or whatever the rates may be, you have to look at that. It can't. I think a lot of people make decisions about money based solely on emotion, or the amount of times I hear, "Well, I remember my old man told me," and it's like, that's fine as an adage, or that's fine as maybe that worked for this specific person, but it's not an economic theory. It's not, don't buy it if you ain't got the cash is not exactly the greatest economic advice on the planet, because that's how people get wealth, leverage.
Yeah, I mean,
if you know how to do it and you're disciplined with it. That's
the discipline on it. So let's talk about some of the mindset. Obviously, you deal with this on your side of the fence. We deal with it on ours, right? Like the concept of, well, my mortgage is the most amount of money I owe, so I want the lowest interest rate, right? Well, that I got in theory makes sense if in a vacuum you have no other debt. So why not want the lowest interest rate?
Sure.
And the flip side of it, right? So let's just kind of put the mirror on it and go, all right, do you want the most amount of your asset pool in the highest risk environment because it might have the highest yield? Probably not the best way to look at things, right?
Right. It's all about, being specific as far as timing, where you're at, what is budget like. Someone might say, I want the lowest interest rate on my biggest loan. Well, how long is that loan for? Right? If I have a much higher interest rate on a $100,000 car, but that is a 5-year loan, I might not be able to afford that. Right. So
Yep.
It all depends on where you're at and making the right decision, but you have to think of all the different factors that are playing into it, not just the one thing that you kind of held on to and you run your whole thing by it, because there's phases to this stuff.
And that's like the other part. And we run into this a lot. Like we deal with people who have a lot of credit card debt. Like your minimum payment on your credit card barely covers the interest a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times it doesn't cover that at all.
So now they're like, oh, well, when I put it in a 30-year mortgage, I'm paying interest on it for 30 years. But you're also amortizing that debt. You're paying that down. Whereas a credit card, if you're just making, you're just making that minimum payment, you're hardly treading water in the Bering Sea at that point.
Exactly.
And one little misstep and now you're completely underwater and you're chasing your tail. And we look at that and go, okay, like, what can we do to bring it all together, right? So we have refinance strategies. You mentioned one earlier. Can I just lump it all in, put it in a 30-year mortgage, and just re-amortize it and run with it? Yeah, that's a great theory. Now we have to overcome the objection or the fear that, well, my mortgage was at 3%. Now it's going to go, middle sixes, depending. There's a million different things. So don't quote me. And please, this is just an illustration. This is no offer for whatever compliance stuff. But then, okay, so now my mortgage rate's doubled. But if I had $40,000 of other debt at 30% interest, that's $12,000 in interest right there. It's $1,000 a month in just interest, non-amortizing.
And that's assuming that you pay all the interest in full, which obviously usually does not happen. And I think that's a great point. Another thing that needs to be looked at too is, I don't know that credit card debt or whatever you bought to get in the credit card debt has equity in it. right?
Come on, that TCL 101-inch TV that's in my basement.
Right. Yeah. I have a 86-inch Sony in my basement that I bought 5 years ago when I bought my house, and it was $4,000. And I think if I wanted to sell it right now, I can sell it for like $300.
Yeah, you might have to give someone $300 to come get it out of your basement.
That's exactly right. And it's like, it's a great TV, but how often do I use it? Is it worth it? Obviously, no, it wasn't worth it. I barely ever use it. But it's like, no matter what I'm buying with a credit card, it's very rare that is going to have some type of equity, some type of return, because things just don't work like that.
Yeah, and then we look at the
Except
other
for homes, right?
Homes typically appreciate.
Or at least you're putting money into something that you could then sell for hopefully at least the same amount.
Yeah. So that's the next part we're going to talk about too. So we have the one method, right? Lump it all in, just redo a 30, 20. I mean, we could do 30, 25, 20, 15, 10-year mortgages. You can do all of those. There's also this one that people love to ask about, a HELOC, which is actually an acronym, home equity line of credit. We get, hey, I want this HELOC, and it's like HELOCK. And I was like, it's actually, LOC, it's a line of credit, right? And for a long time, that product was really a strong play for debt consolidation, for the astute financial person, because the prime rate and your Fed funds rate and all these other rates were low, and that's 98% of those programs are tied to a prime plus X margin equals your rate for the month, which when prime's 3 and then you add on 3, you're borrowing at 6%. That's not too bad. Well, right now prime's 7.5, so you add 3 and you're borrowing at 10.5. But that 10.5, a lot of times lower than whatever's on your American Express or your Chase card and all of that.
Yeah.
Most of those products are built to where you will have an interest only payment for the first 10 years, but you're welcome to pay more in principal.
Yep.
But it frees up some cash flow. However, I will tell you that a lot of people that don't have a plan with it, they knock all of the stuff out, and now you have these credit cards, freedom on credit cards again, and you end up back in the same spot. So it's not for everybody.
Right.
Why, when you sit down with me, I'm going to go through the entire plan and say, hey, here's your interest payment. If you want to get out of this in 10 years before it converts to a 20-year amortization, you need to also pay this per month.
Exactly. And that's it's a slippery slope, because you have somebody that obviously, we've all probably been in debt or owed money at some point in our lives.
Oh, no doubt.
There's times where you have somebody that they've got credit, and now they've got credit across the board, balances across the board when it comes to credit. And you think about, well, if you now have access to $100,000, $150,000, $50,000, whatever, in just straight credit that you now know you can pay off in 30 years, that's a dangerous thing for somebody to recommend if the person they're recommending it to doesn't completely understand, like, hey, this isn't like a vacation fund.
Yes.
This is like pay off the cards, pay off this or anything that's holding you down, free up some cash flow, be efficient.
That's where that comes in. And then, like, the other part, we usually, like I said, I'm not one to recommend a HELOC on a lot of people's debt consolidation strategies. However, what we're seeing now too is people needing to make roof replacements, particularly in the Midwest from hail damage, and a lot of insurance companies now coming down and saying, like, hey, we need to replace your roof or we're going to cancel your coverage. So where do you get capital to make a home improvement project? That's where HELOC makes a lot of sense, because you're leveraging your home's equity. So the money is being deployed into a home improvement that will do two things. One, it will allow you to continue to be appropriately insured, but also is going to reduce your maintenance cost on your house, because now you have a new roof, new windows, whatever it is.
And hopefully up the resale value.
That's the even better part, is we actually just rolled out a product that's a reno refinance. So we talked a couple, I don't know, earlier in the summer, whenever Jelly Roll was in town, and we were talking, like, we had an episode about, an ugly house and like using renovation loans like an FHA 203K or a Fannie Mae home style renovation loan to buy a house or refinance your house and knock out those updates or those repairs. Again, in that one, right, you're taking all of that cost and parking it into a 30-year mortgage. You're maybe getting out of that 3 or 4% interest rate and into a higher one. Well, we also have ones now because, again, we want to, whatever that is, necessity is the means for all inventions and whatnot, right? So, hey, what happens to the person that's very equity rich, has a low interest rate mortgage, but maybe doesn't have the capital immediately to deploy, or that deploying that capital creates a taxable event, right? Like taking money out of your IRA.
Right.
What else can we do? Well, let's leverage against the house and we'll do a renovation refinance. So or a HELOC. So that is, again, we keep that first mortgage in place, but we need that new roof at 40 grand.
Right.
I can get you that new roof at 40 grand with an interest rate that's going to be much more competitive than a credit card.
Oh yeah.
And then if we also look at it, right? So if you, and I'm sure you go through this with clients too, like what if I need to take money out of my IRA and I need to take 40 grand out? Well, do you still have a W-2 job? Like, is that money going to create a taxable event, right? If it's not, not in a Roth, like, but then that money's also not working for you anymore either.
Right. It's a double. And that's part of the complexity of it is, yeah, this money is yours. I get it. You can take it. Now, if it's in a traditional, you all of a sudden are taking a 10% penalty. If you're not 59 and a half, you're paying taxes on that, which is adding to your income for that year. But at the same time, it's like, if that's the only option, then what else can I do? So there's a lot of people that don't necessarily know that there's things like I didn't know that there's a reno refi. Do you have to have a certain amount of equity in the house to do it? How does that work?
So this one on the reno HELOC, they're actually going to use we'll boil this down basic mortgage terms. So loan to value and total loan to value ratio are like really important concept here. So that's your leverage ratio, how much money you owe versus what your house is worth, right? Mm-hmm. The nice part about either the renovation refinances, so the home styles, the 203Ks, or the rental HELOC, is we're going to establish that value number is on the after improved. So,
oh wow, okay.
So the assumption that these improvements are made. So house right now as is worth 300. Well, after the renovations, it's worth 400. So now we're going to use that 400 metric to establish how much we can leverage with a 720 or higher credit score on the renovation HELOC. We're looking at being able to go up to your total loan to value ratio of 90%. So current outstanding first versus the total line of credit on the second can be up to 90% of the after improved value of the house.
That's kind of cool that they use the after.
That's one of the and that's one of the most critical parts and why that program makes sense. Now, in order to allow for that, there's some controls on who can take, how we're paying contractors, what type of repairs we're doing, all of that. But that's one of them. And then on the like FHA 203K and these other ones, like you're able to leverage up to 90 on FHA, 96.5% of the after improved value of the house. Wow. So there's access to these products and to these things that might be way more affordable than creating a taxable event by dipping into retirement, right? Mm-hmm. Or taking that momentum, right? We've talked about compounding factors on that money in retirement. So that thing's yielding, whatever that nest egg's $200,000 yielding 8%. Well, if we evaporate that and put that into roof, I promise you that your roof's probably not going to yield 8%. It's not usually how that part works. Right. So we got to look at those things. But this is the major difference. This is why I wanted to talk about this with you. This is the difference between clicking a button and using, discount brokerage without advice versus talking to someone like Patrick who's seeing it on both sides, right? You're in an office that's dealing with insurance. So you're hearing like homeowners insurance. So you're hearing lots of financial situations there. You're also hearing about car accidents and all that other crap. Mm-hmm. And then you're there to like, hey, like we have this, I'm over here. We got these other products, but we don't want to necessarily access these products. So sit down with a financial professional that understands the entire picture. You're not just clicking a button to get that, what is perceived to be that low interest rate. This is going to be super easy. Like we want a full on strategy.
Without question. And that's a huge thing and a great point, because a lot of times I see people make decisions just based on one piece of information that they like, right? Oh, I know this, or this is what I heard, so here's the decisions I'm going to make around it. But what you don't realize is the complexity of that. There's 15 different things around that if those don't align, that might not be the best decision, right? It might not be the best decision for someone to say, if I don't have the cash to pay for it, I'm not going to buy it. Well, if that person wants to open a business, if that person could take that cash position, use that to leverage a loan of some kind and turn that into something that cash flows with the mindset of just one way, not looking at both sides or multiple sides of a decision or a equation, it's just incomplete, right? So you can lose a lot of potential growth in just thinking from a
that's the biggest thing is like don't hamstring yourself, don't Achilles heel yourself because you just had this one mindset. Be open to a conversation, right? Like last I checked, you don't charge per hour counseling fees.
I do not.
I don't either, right? We're here to help people understand budget, and it's a lot of times it's because you're talking to hundreds, if not thousands of people a year about their goals and where they're at. And you're seeing patterns, you're seeing things, you're seeing what worked, what didn't work. Mm-hmm. Likewise with me, I'm seeing thousands of credit reports. I'm seeing thousands of bank statements. I'm answering thousands of questions. Just yesterday, had a conversation with a lady who's, middle-aged, and my daughter wants to buy a house, but she's saving up to put 20% down. I was like, what do you think? What's your daughter's credit score? She's like 749. And I was like, let me just type in this PMI calculator and tell you what the PMI cost would be in this situation. And she was like, you've got to be effing kidding me. And I was like, this is what I'm trying to say. She's like, I didn't know because the PMI on my loan is so much higher. And I just thought that she would be paying that. And I was like, well, what type of loan did you have? We talked to her. And I was like, well, this is why your perspective, your situation is different, because your credit profile was different when you bought that house 7 years ago. Your daughter's like, you learned, you passed it down. That's critical. But you also can pass down bad habits.
No question about that.
And I think that's the scary part.
Yeah,
I'm sure, especially in your world.
Don't do that because that's what I did. Well, you have what you have because when you got what you got, you had a 600 credit score. You had 2% to put. Everybody's situation is different, but we kind of just latch on to the first thing that makes sense because it's easy, right? And let's be honest, people aren't talking about this stuff every day. You are. Right.
Yep,
and
who are
right. And who knows, we learn things, we continuously learn things. So people that are in these positions and see, all these different scenarios, we can see it and be like, all right, that could be a good idea if you're doing this, and this, right? Perfect example is when you had me on a couple weeks ago, we were talking about whole life. And when I talk about whole life with a client, it's more along the lines of like, this is a great product. If you are already maxing out your 401k, if that is part of the entire strategy, then this is a great thing to do. But it surely isn't a great thing to do if you're, not making what you want to make. You're not putting anything towards retirement. You're not doing the things you need to do from a basic financial standpoint. That's not the right position. But if I'm talking to you and you don't know that about me, I'll be like, yeah, I got a whole life. He said it was awesome. And it's like, well, there's factors. There's factors to this. You can't just grab one and hold on to it forever. It's always situational and evolving.
So it's a giant pot, kind of like conferences, growing, purging, cutting off, reestablishing.
Yep.
And then I think that one of the biggest concerns here, like the old adage of like, how about we just say, hey, it's not your father's Big Ten conference anymore. Things are a little bit different. Right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Purdue was good at football at one point, right?
Oh my gosh.
the Kyle Orton days.
Yeah, hey, Drew Brees. Then that was the Rose Bowl year. That was that was my freshman year. I was all rushing the field, and then came Kyle Orton, and then I think Painter. They had three or four pro quarterbacks, and then Blau was good when Jeff Brom was there, and then he left, and half the team left, and now it's we're at that struggle bus. We're at the Northwestern level at this point.
Getting hopefully your coach isn't getting undisclosed settlements, and you get maybe you guys get a new stadium or something.
Hey, we got a new coach this year. He's hard nosed. I like the fact that he made a little jab at IU. The first press conference he made, something about dodging the schedule or something. But it's really about developing the kids, getting good kids to come and play. Which I'm sure is hard to do if you're kind of at the bottom of your game at this point.
Well, and you're West Lafayette, Indiana. Like you're not in the
you're not on the beach. It's not Miami.
Yeah, you got snow. You got your cornfields and gray skies. But that's a good point, right? Like if you just look at your financial situation or anyone's financial situation, how Purdue, for example, right, and then IU, like. Bobby Knight basketball, IU incredible, right? Then they make another run of basketball. At one point, they're all right with football, like Antoine Randall type, that type of stuff. And then like they're really good at football. Then Purdue ends up super good at basketball for a little bit. They pumped out some pro quarterbacks. Northwestern, not maybe they got some stuff. But U of I football is back there. Like basketball used to be the thing. Basketball was the thing very recently. Like UNC. Football, all of a sudden they get smoked, but you go back to like 2005, 2006, and you're talking about super good basketball team there. Like it's just all of this stuff changes, and you can't just have that singular mindset,
right? Because if you do, then what happens when that doesn't work out the way you wanted it to work out?
Yeah, you end up like the Big 12. That's what it
exactly
is, right?
Right.
You got the Big 12 problems in your financial worksheet there.
Yeah. And next thing you know, you'll have the Big 12 with 4 teams in it because your things are
completely mislabeled.
That's exactly right.
All right. Anything else, Patrick, you want to throw out there? Any other nuggets? Who's going to win college football this year?
I mean, it's really hard to not say the Buckeyes. I mean, they looked so good. Their defense looked incredible in week 1, playing the number 1 team in the country. They won it last year. And it's always a different team, but it seems like that team is just always going to be in that mix. And I haven't seen anything yet to say different.
Yeah, I mean, we're very early in the season here, but
right.
Just don't give a damn for the whole state of Michigan because we're from Ohio.
Right. What I can say is it's not going to be Notre Dame, and that makes my heart warm.
That's you're a little, you guys don't like the North, those Purdue folk. You guys don't like the Northeastern Indiana folk.
No, we do not. I've experienced too many beatings from the Irish to have any type of empathy when I see them lose.
All right. How do people get in touch with you, Patrick?
Anybody can get in touch with me. You can call the office here, Adam Hage's office. You can go on the website. I think it's
AdamIsMyAgent.com.
There you go.
That's the one.
And you could obviously just get in contact with the office, ask for Patrick, and make an appointment. A lot of times I'm booked up, but if I have 2 or 3 days advance notice, I'll get you on the schedule, and we can talk about really anything that you want to talk about financially, from financial planning to your life insurances, your disability insurances, all that different kind of stuff. But it's not hard. You can find me on Facebook too, and anybody, if you want, comment, and I'll ship you myself. So
awesome. We'll get that out, and then I think you said that people can maybe play you for bags for $20 at our event tomorrow. Is that the case? Come get your custom. Look, we got not another 3 Putts official. We got cocktail napkins with the logo on it, the QR code. So we hope
posted up at the bags.
If you're in the region, St. John Community Center, just on the east side of the gates of St. John there on Klein Avenue, you'll see Patrick, you'll see me, you'll see Adam, you'll see our recurring guest Tony Medadero. We'll all be there in live action from 6 to 10. We got music, we got Kona Ice, we got barbecue. I saw the beer bill. We got tons of beer, so come drink that and
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
yuck it up. But when you're there, ask any of these guys, me, Adam, Patrick, Tony. We're here to answer questions for you. Again, everyone's situation is different. We can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
But we don't know about your situation. We don't know how to help or how to guide unless you reach out and ask.
Yep, you'll never get the answers if you don't at least ask the question.
All right, well, come get your commemorative cocktail napkin tomorrow, and that's it. Thank you for hopping on.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
OHIO apparently for you.
I'm done. Cut the show.